Hi guys, good evening to all of you.
Hi, sir.
Yeah, yes. Let us continue. XPATH. We are discussing XPATH concept, right? Yes, here we are. Yes, we discussed in the last session XPATH discussion. I think so many of you are missing. Let us see here. Once again, I will repeat quickly. Guys, here XPath is very important concept, and because in the real-time project, we'll be using XPath most frequently to identify web elements in the web pages. Okay, guys. So let us see here how to define XPath. See, we can define XPath, right, by using different options. The first one is by using tag name. How to define XPath by using tag name. So here example is given, a /li is the example. So that means just always XPath begins with /. And if you are using tag name to identify the web element, then the tag name should be defined after /, guys. / and tag name. So that is the format how you should define XPath using tag name. See, what is the meaning of this /li means? It finds all elements with a tag name li, guys. Similarly, sometimes we can use in the place of a tag name, we can use asterisk character, star character, guys. Sometimes. What is meaning of asterisk in the XPath? If you use asterisk character, that means any tag name. There is no specific tag name defining here. We are not defining any specific tag name. And instead of that, if you define asterisk, that means any tag name. That is the meaning of asterisk, guys. Guys, all of it clear, right? How to define, how to use tag name in the XPath, guys. And next option, how to define XPath, right? Using attribute. How to use attributes in XPath. We can use attributes, HTML attributes in the XPath to identify any web element. That means along with this HTML tag name, see that here, how we are using. Yes, ma'am. So we can define attributes for any HTML tag in the XPath like this, /li tag name. And for this li HTML element, we are defining ID attribute. Okay, guys. See that how that ID attribute is defined inside square brackets. Always attributes should be defined, and every attribute name should be prefixed with @ symbol, and attribute value should be enclosed in single quote. Okay, guys. So these are the rules, guys. Attribute should be defined inside square bracket, and attribute name should be prefixed with @ symbol, and attribute value should be enclosed with single quote. Okay. So you can use any attribute. Okay, you can use any HTML attribute in the XPath to identify web element. See here in this example, we are declaring link. We are finding the link element. So /a is the tag name for link element, right? And what is the attribute we are using here? href attribute we are using. That means we are identifying the link element by using XPath. So this is the XPath to identify web element. So href is the attribute for that particular a link element, and it is the value of href, guys. Okay, guys, that is the attribute. That means how to define attribute. Similarly, how to define a child element in the XPath. So in this example, if you see here, we are defining two HTML tags here, guys. First one is / division tag name. And for this HTML element, we are defining attribute, class attribute. That means first it identifies this element, first division element, with this specific class value. Then it will find that element. So this element is a parent element. Okay, guys. So after that, you are defining a single slash. Single slash means, what is the meaning of single slash? The next element, whichever is following to this single slash element, the division element is coming right after this single slash. So this division element is a child element of the first HTML, first web element. So this is the parent element, and this division is a child element for this first division element, guys. Okay. And next to see that how to find the last child element. To find, see here, this XPath will find the first child element. It will identify, by default, it will identify the first child element. Inside this division parent element, it will find first division, first child element, guys. To find the last child element, for this child element, you have to define last function. So along with this child element, we are defining last function. To identify the last child, we are using the last function to identify the last child element. Guys, if you have any questions or any doubts, please stop me and ask me. Okay, guys. Last function we are using to identify a last child element, guys. And you please observe that how this last function we are defining in the XPath, guys. So this last function should be defined for the child element division and inside the square bracket, guys. Next option, how to use multiple attributes in the XPath. So it is very simple. Okay, you can use more than one attribute in XPath for any HTML element or for any web element, just by using and keyword. See here, division is the HTML tag, and for this element we are defining two attributes. One is class attribute, another one is data type attribute. So these two attributes are prefixed with @ symbol, and also these two attributes separated with and keyword, guys. So like this, you can add one more attribute if you want to define like this here. Just again add and define the next attribute. So like this, you can define multiple attributes in the XPath by using and keyword, guys. Next, how to define, how to use index number. So what is the use of index number? To identify nth child element. See, if I remove this index number, see, it is a child element, understand? So for this child element, you can define index number. Suppose if you want to identify first child element, you can define 1. If you want to identify third child element, you should define here 3. If you want to identify last child element, you should use last function. All of you clear? So this is how you can identify, right, nth child element by using its index number. So index number can be defined for child elements inside square brackets. So the next option, how to use HTML text in the XPath to identify any web element. So you can define HTML text in the XPath by using text function, guys. By using this text function, we can define HTML text in the XPath. See like this. See double slash button. So I want to find a button element with HTML text login. With HTML text login. So text is the function we are using, and to define the HTML text value, guys. The HTML text value should be assigned to text function, guys. It identifies a button element with HTML text value login. That is the meaning of this text function, guys. Let's see the next option, contains function. Very important function. Contains function. What is the use of this contains function? To define, to identify any web element by using partial attribute value or partial HTML text, guys. If you want to identify some web element, not by using the full attribute value or the full HTML text, I want to use some partial value of any attribute, or I want to use some partial value of any HTML text in the XPath, then you should use this contains function. See how we can define this. See button, example, contains, inside square brackets we are defining it, guys. Contains. So here you can define attribute name, comma, a partial value. Partial attribute value. Contains, and it is a function. So you have square normal bracket open, and normal bracket should be closed. Yes, it is not closed here. Closing bracket should be there. Okay, guys. And inside these brackets, you should define attribute name, comma, partial value or substring, attribute substring, guys. So all of you clear? Contains. That means this partial value can be, this partial value should present inside this attribute, guys. This partial string, whatever you are defining here, it should be present inside this attribute for this button element. So that means if any button element which contains royal login inside data test ID attribute, that is the meaning of it, guys. So this partial string can be at anywhere inside this attribute. It can be at the beginning of this attribute, or it can be a middle of this attribute value, or it can be a end string of this attribute value, guys. So this partial string can be a starting string of this attribute, or it can be a middle string, or it can be an ending string of this attribute, guys. See here, I'm using different partial strings to identify this button, royal login, and here I'm using just a login, and here I'm using login underscore button. That means for the same attribute, I am using 3 different substrings, partial strings, using contains function, guys. Guys, all of you understanding this concept? Options, how we are using different options in the XPath.
So what is the difference between starting and middle?
See, starting and ending means, see here, if you look at this object, what is this object? Button, login button, right? See that. I will show you that, guys. It's taking very slow. What is this? What happened? Style mistake. So what happened to my Eclipse? It's not launching. Yeah. Yes, guys. If you see here, I'm running Facebook. See this Facebook login script I'll be running. It's very slow. Something first run. You guys see this here. This is the login button we are talking. And in this, for this login button, if you see these attributes of this login button element, we're talking about this attribute, guys, data underscore test ID. Okay. See, for this data hyphen test ID, that is attribute. And if you see this attribute value, royal login button, royal underscore login underscore button. So that is the value of this attribute, guys. So now how we are defining partial value of this attribute. I want to use partial string of this attribute, not the full value of this attribute. I want to use just partial string. So this partial string can be anything. The starting string means I can use royal or login or button or combination. Is it right? So that is what starting string means. I'm defining here. See that here I will define this control F. Okay, guys, double slash C button square bracket, inside square bracket it should define contains and brackets, and inside that I should define first attribute name at data hyphen test ID, comma, and what is the value? See that I will define just a login inside single quotes, login. See that it is a highlighting the login button, guys. See, we are not defining here the full value of data test ID attribute. We are defining a substring. So what is the substring now? Where this substring is available inside this attribute data test ID? See that it is royal underscore login underscore button. So it is a middle string, correct? Starting string means the starting value of that attribute. So I can define like this also, royal underscore login. Say that. Now also it is highlighting the same element. Okay, guys, I'm using here the starting substring of attribute data test ID. Starting value I'm using. Similarly, I can also define ending value. And that means ending partial value I can define. Login underscore button I can use. Instead of using royal underscore login, I can define login underscore button. Now also it is highlighting that element. So like this, you can use any partial string, the partial string of that attribute. If you want to use in the XPath, you should use this contains function, guys. Now you got it now? Understand what is the starting string and ending string and middle string means? It is nothing but the starting value, starting partial value. That is a starting string I'm calling. Okay. Middle substring means nothing but the middle value of that attribute, guys. So any partial value you can use to identify that element by using contains function. Love you clear, guys? Understand? Okay. Similarly, you can use contains function to define partial HTML text also, guys. You can use partial HTML text. See that here. For this link, forgotten password is a link. So this link contains HTML text value for forgotten password, right? See, forgotten password is the HTML text value. Understand? So instead of defining the full HTML text, I can use partial HTML text by using contains function, guys. So that should be defined like this. A is the tag name. A is the tag name and contains what value, what partial value you are defining? HTML text partial value I want to define. So we are defining text function, comma, and partial HTML text. That's all. So like this, you can define partial HTML text also by using contains function. Yes. So the next function starts hyphen with. So it is similar to contains function, but only difference is in the contains function, you can use any substring, understand, any partial value that should be present in the attribute or HTML text. But starts with means you should define the starting partial string, guys. You should define only the starting partial string. That's all. See here where it is defining button starts with data test ID is attribute name, and royal underscore login is a starting value of this attribute. So it is not a full value of this attribute. It is just a starting value of this attribute. So this attribute should start with this string. That is the meaning of this. This attribute should start with this string, guys. After this text, after this substring, the attribute may contain any other text. That is not the matter. This attribute should begin with this substring. That's all. Then it will identify that particular element that starts with function. It is similar to contains function. Only difference is in the starts with function, you should define only starting string. That's all. And next important function, guys, up to here, up to this 9 most frequently used options, all these 9, okay guys, in the XPATH. And from 10 we'll be using sometimes, okay, not very frequently, but sometimes whenever it is required, we'll be using these functions, guys. Now let's say that from 10th one, following. What is this following? You can use this following to identify the next element which is displayed after the current element. That means I want to identify some element which is displayed after the current element in the web page. All of it clear, guys? See here, the rule is the next element should be displayed after the current element. That is a rule. That's all. That is called following, guys. See here, example. See here, I'm using same Facebook login. If I take these two text boxes, guys, so there are two text boxes, guys. Suppose just assume that for this password element, there is no attributes available. There is no unique attribute available. But for this user email text box, unique attribute is available. So in such case, I want to you can identify this password text box with reference to this element, email element, guys. With reference to this element, you can identify this element. So how we are defining here, it's XPATH say that without using this password element attributes, I am not going to use any attribute of this password element. I will be identifying this element by using this email element. Let us see here how it is defined. See that input. If you see that first in the HTML file, how these elements are displayed. So this is the first element, guys. Okay. What is the element name? Input. And what is second text box? Password text box. So this is the password text box. See that. It is the email text box and it is the password text box. See, is there any relation between these two elements here? Relation in the sense parent and child relation. Is there? Is this element and this element, is there any parent-child relation? No, right? This element parent is different one, and this input element parent is different one. Okay, both are at different levels. All of it clear. But still, I can identify this element by using this email text box. Now see that. So this element, this text box is displayed after this email. So that is a relation now you are defining. See, first we'll be identifying this email text box by using some attribute value. Once this email text box is identified, then what is the relation you are arriving to find this password text box? From this text box, you find the next input element, which is displaying after this email text box. So this is the current email text box. So after this email input element, what is the next input element which is coming after this element? Here, if you come down in this HTML file, so here it is the input element which is coming after this element. So it will identify this element now directly. So that is how now you will be defining the XPATH, guys. Now see this /input, and here you are defining ID attribute. So this will identify email text box. It will identify email text box. After that slash, okay, slash, and see here we are not defining immediately HTML tag name, guys. We are using following we are using after single slash, following double colons, that is a syntax how it should be defined. Okay, guys, following double colons and HTML tag name. What type of element you are looking for? I am looking for input HTML element. Understand, guys? First it will identify email element, and from this email element I want to find the next input element which is displaying after this email text box. Understand, guys? Here, see here, I'm using index number 1. What is the meaning of that? I want to find.
So tag name should be same for both the elements, right?
No need to be same. Suppose after this email, I want to find, say, look at this button element, for example. I want to find after this email, I want to find the button element which is displaying after this email text box. So I can give button also. If I give button, it will identify this element. Since I am giving, see here, this is the next element. Understand, guys? It is a next element and it is a current element, the relation here. So now currently you are in this element. So from this element, I want to find the next input element. All of you clear? So I can give here the next button element. If I give button here, it identifies the next button. After this email text box, it will find the first button element. That's all. If I give here input, it will identify after this email text box, it will find first input element. You understand, guys? So that is the meaning of that. See that. I'm defining here /input. I'm defining here attribute to identify that email at ID equal to email. See that it is identifying, it is highlighting that email text box now. So after that slash following double colon. Now if I give button, see that it is highlighting button. See that here, look at that. It is highlighting button. That means it will check that after this email text box where button is coming, it will come down. So here button is there. So it will identify that element. That's all. Suppose now if I give input, it will find next first, see, it will find the next element. See, there are 3 elements are there. After this email, there are 3 input elements are there. See, 3 elements are coming here, but I want to find the first input, first element. So we are defining here index number. So now only one element is highlighting. Are we clear? So it is the password element. So that means you are identifying this password element with reference to this element, guys. Here we are not defining any password element attributes. All of you clear? From this element, you are finding this password. For that, what is the relation we are using? A following relation. Just we are defining in the XPATH, guys. That is called following. Following means the next element. All of you clear, guys? This is the current element and this is the next element after this. So this next element should be displayed after this current element in the application.